We got another D1 topic here. This is, I think, the third week in a row in which we have referenced D1. But
Whoa.
D1 used recently a Benny the Butcher interview to make another point about what he feels about the state of hip hop and hip hop's content.
Mhm.
So Benny the Butcher. Now, to be honest about this discussion, D1 is not going at Benny the Butcher. He is going at an interview that Benny the Butcher participated in, and he is using this interview to highlight some of the things that he views as problematic when it comes to the content of hip hop music. And in recent history, Benny the Butcher has had words over the internet with Rick Ross, with Meek Mill, with Jim Jones, because he feels like they are being hypocrites. Because when they are in public, they talk about the good things that they are doing to promote positivity, but then they will get into their music and they talking about dope and drugs and jail and all of that good stuff and violence. And D1's like, what's the deal, bro? Like, are you about positivity or not? Because you get into your music and you still on that ignorant stuff. I happen to agree with D1. I think Dogon also agrees with D1 when it comes to that. Uh, we do not have time for hypocrites who are publicly hypocritical on the Conscious Approach channel. But the latest example of this for D1 is an interview with Benny the Butcher. So we'll go ahead and play this clip here real quick. So this says Benny the Butcher replies to D1's Coke rappers criticism. So D1 has found himself dealing with some self-imposed beef with a variety of other rappers he's called out recently. He took jabs at Jim Jones, Meek Mill, and Rick Ross for the violent content of their lyrics and the impact it has on listeners. Meek was the first to reply, taking a pretty dismissive approach to the situation, but Jim Jones hit back with an even more robust response, which concluded with what some interpreted as a threat of violence. In another new video he shared, D1 took issue with the label of Coke rappers. For the video, he used a clip of Benny the Butcher being asked during an interview to list off his top 5 favorite Coke rappers. Quote, I knew this N word was coming from me, end quote, Benny captioned a tweet of the original video. But D quickly replied, clarifying that his issue wasn't actually with Benny. Instead, he claims he was calling out the question that Benny was asked as being part of the problem. Yo, that wasn't about you, brother. It was about the question homie chose to ask you. His response reads, check out the full interactions between the pair below. So this is the basically a snippet of both cut together in question. So I'm a
Top
first.
three.
Let me go ahead and so this isn't very long. It'll just give you a little context here of the interview in question, and then it will also show a brief clip of D1's response. If you want to see D1's full diatribe, you can look up the full video on TikTok. That's where he posts his stuff. Oh, come on, you can do it.
Yeah, I got it. Oh, damn. Getting buffered. Make it smaller again. Maybe
All
that'll
right,
do
we'll go ahead and refresh.
it. And man, these guys, bro. I mean, I'll save it
Top
for the
three
answer.
Coke rappers. Benny the Butcher. Who you got? Top three Coke rappers. Benny the Butcher. Who you got? Uh, no, let's do top five.
Who are your top five coke of all time, right? See, that's the problem with our culture.
Okay, so D1 had a problem with the fact that Benny the Butcher was asked, who are the top 5 cocaine rappers of all time? Now, this is, of course, on brand with D1. And yeah, I mean, curious as to how that would be a question that is asked. But if you know anything about Benny the Butcher as an artist, that's not a stretch.
Right.
Um, So you also have to take into account who Benny the Butcher is and the type of music that he makes. But what did you think about D1's contention with that particular question?
Well, of course, I agree with him. I feel as though that's a ridiculous question. I don't know. He could have asked that question without so much enthusiasm. I'm trying to figure out why he was so excited for the answer. You know, and while that was playing, I'm sitting there. I was shaking my head because of the level of enthusiasm that he had. It was beyond him doing his radio job. And it's just like, bro, like, why would that? The mere fact that that's even a question concerns me about where people are at. And there's people that's like, all is like, oh snap, he about to name his top 5 coke rappers. I would like to be bigger fans of what he's doing. Him and the whole Griselda thing. I would love to be fans of that because I think Conway is just, he's
Yeah, but
crazy.
Conway rap about that ignorant stuff though.
But he talks about ignorant stuff. And
Yeah.
I just want them to just rap. But they gotta do they coke bars, murder bars, gun bars, and so it's hard to listen to it. I can't listen to it even though I know it's gonna go hard. But with all of that said, that's his lane. That's like asking Jeezy, who's your whoop de whoop, he your best trap rappers, or you gotta put blah blah, he's gonna go down a list. So it's pretty much the same thing. But the crazy part about it is, why is that question even being asked? And this alludes to whatever D1's coming from in the aspect of this is so embedded in our culture that it's being done on a casual radio station, just like, hey, what's your best mind control music, sir? Which one you like most that gets people incarcerated? I can't wait to hear this. Oh yeah, number one. He's gonna sit there and name all the top mind controllers. So I just think people just need to view life more through a they live lens and not live in commercial land where everything's a product, as you always say about hip hop, and just consume the latest dope tale. And it's just like, man, who's spinning the best web of concentrated lies over a boom bap beat? So I don't care for it. So but yeah, I would like to be bigger fans of them because I think they are good at what they do. I just don't care for the topics. But yeah, man, I agree with D1. So what's your thoughts on this, man? How do you feel about this entire situation here?
Yeah, like if someone were to, like, let's say you turned on to a news show or you were watching an interview, somebody famous was being interviewed, and the interviewer was like, name your top 3. Oh, hold up, let's just make it top 5. Name your top 5 favorite serial killers.
No, yeah.
You'd be like, huh? Like you'd be like, why is that even a question? Like, why are we up here on this? Why are we up here on this credible platform glorifying serial killers? But for whatever reason, we don't look at the music stuff the same. We look at it as different. Like it's somehow more like acceptable, I guess. Like you would scoff at the notion of being asked, well, who are your top 5 favorite serial killers? Because even if you were demented enough to have a top 5 list of favorite serial killers, you would never publicly list out your top 5 favorite serial killers because you're asking for trouble. Something's wrong with this guy. He ain't all there. Can we do a welfare check on this person? Why does he have a top 5 list of his favorite serial killers? Like that's weird. But when it comes to this music, you can have your list of favorite cocaine rappers, and it's cool because the content of the music is synonymous with this stuff. Unfortunately, the only thing that I can say about because I'm with D1, question everything. That's why I like D1 because he questions this stuff and he's not afraid to do so. He's not afraid to combat the infectious disease that is groupthink mentality when it comes to hip hop culture at large, and I commend him for that. Don't be someone who is afraid to combat that very infectious disease because there's too much groupthink going on in that industry. And so I commend him for that. And I agree with him 1000%. But what I will say with Benny the Butcher is, like, I heard Benny the Butcher on a lot of songs. And I can count on one hand the amount of songs that I heard him on in which he was not talking about
Yeah.
or
Right.
shooting people. Like, that's what I hear every time he raps. So he's being on brand. And I kind of feel like in this regard, he's an innocent bystander. Not that Dee-1 is going at him, because he clarified that he is not going at him. But when it comes to Benny the Butcher, I can at least say that at least Benny the Butcher is not Meek Mill, and he is not a vocal hypocrite. Because I don't see Benny the Butcher going on talk shows and interviews talking about how the music industry is paying for ignorance, how the music industry profits off of, excuse me, how the music industry profits off of ignorance, how he is trying to legislate prison reform, how he is trying to clean up the streets and remove some of the laws that inordinately target disenfranchised people and puts them in prison. But then he gets into the booth and he's making songs that perpetuate those very same things. Meek Mill is doing that. And so I can't stand Meek Mill because he is a very vocal hypocrite. At least Benny the Butcher is not a vocal hypocrite. Now, he might be a silent one because maybe in his downtime, Benny the Butcher donates money here or has this charitable organization there and so on and so forth. But publicly, to my knowledge, Benny the Butcher is not a vocal hypocrite. And so I can let Benny the Butcher slide because he isn't loud with how he is trying to promote positivity, despite the fact that he gets on these rap songs and raps about anything but. So that's the only area in which I will slide on him. But otherwise, I haven't heard a single song with Benny the Butcher where he is not doing these very same things. So it's not a stretch for somebody to sit him down in an interview and ask him who his top 5 favorite Coke rappers are. Because if you are to believe his rhymes to be true, he probably has a pretty ample list. Uh, the question is, why is this a thing that is being asked? And I really do think we need to start looking at a question like that the same way that we would look at a question as to whether you have your top 5 list of favorite serial killers. If we won't allow that question, why do we have to sit here and allow the question of top 5 favorite Coke rappers? I don't get it, but I also simultaneously do get it because that's the culture. And until we break down why that is the culture, that type of interview will continue to be a normal thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And the same thing goes with yeah, what was I gonna say? Um damn, lost my train of thought. But yeah, the whole notion here where D1 is calling these people out, I'm behind this because he's pretty much a quiet dude. The most that he did was just make his own music, blog about it, and only pretty much his fans just knew about it, type of thing. But he's making waves, and his name's big enough to make waves, and so he's been making waves lately, and I'm encouraging more of that, you know, and because we just need these things to be part of the discussion because they
Yeah.
weren't before. So I appreciate him just doing this, and I would like him to continue because people want to keep hearing it because I think a lot of people are tired of this.
I think so too. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of like with everything right now in entertainment. The movies suck, the TV shows suck. I mean, at least the NBA sucks. The NFL is starting to suck low key until some quarterbacks get in there. But the quality of a lot of things are declining, and people are just upset. And so I think a lot of the reasons that people are resonating with what D1 saying is because, yeah, he's speaking for a lot of people who's just had enough.
Yeah.
And so yeah, having those discussions on air is part of course, man. It's what's going on. And eventually there's going to be conversation of, who's your best whore? Who's your because people are, dudes already got their top 5 lists of adult actresses. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about who's your favorite, OnlyFans whore. Who's your top 5? Oh, all right, now see, peep this now. Yeah, and bro, be super excited. And so, hey man, that's what I'm saying. This is going along with the decline of the surroundings. My best thing is as what I'm trying to get at is just make sure you're not a part of some surroundings, where you see yourself getting caught up in waves of, hey, I can sit there and point at theirs because I ain't in there, but which one am I in? And so the best thing, man, is just sit this stuff down and just look at the theater that's going on around you, because that's how I'm looking at this stuff. And right now I see that the what we've been typecasted, all this gangster rap and drug stuff, I'm tired of this show. I don't want to see this anymore. And so whenever I see the DJ, in really in character, like he's really, I want to know top 3, nah, man, top 5. What? But yeah, I already noticed that was already a thing, that people just went away from any kind of rap. It was just strictly cocaine bars. It was a whole, the whole, 2000s, 2010s. It was just nuts. Everybody was doing it. So yeah, it's a genre, and I guess there's people psyched about it. They got cocaine playlists, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I ain't gonna lie, bro. I like wrist music. All right. So whenever I was going crazy, I like songs specifically talked about cooking and whipping. And for whatever reason, I would just lose my mind about the concept of whipping, but not actual drugs. I just like the hand in a pot motion. And so I'm just and just going crazy. So that was my thing, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, man, people get caught up in that wave, but it was just a thing of I would hear it. So I got too much going on in my head, about what's going on in the world. So that's why I couldn't enjoy it. You have to know what's going on around you for real. You have to know what's happening, and then that stuff will become classless, just not a good taste and all this other stuff. But when you're in it, man, that MSG tastes delicious. The beat go hard, that bar go hard. You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, he getting it in on the boat. Oh my, he's talking to Poppy, and oh man, you going crazy. So yeah, man, but you got to know your surroundings. The more you know your surroundings, the more that stuff don't make sense to you. So, but we just got a lot of people right now that are, still buying the hype, unfortunately. So,
yeah, I get the impression that there's more people than you would think who are tired of it. I feel that way. But I think that discourse is just now getting its place at the table. And so, it's just going to take it, continuing to get its place at the table, getting talked about more. And I think, the more people get to talking about this, and the more that platform, the more that form of discourse is accorded its own platform, and it's a platform that is big enough to garner a larger enough audience, it'll get the conversation going more and more. Something's got to give. Like, you can't continue to do that. Well, you can if allowed to. But at a certain point, the buck has to stop. You can't have these guys running around out here, who publicly want to talk about how they're helping their people and being positive, but then they make content that's the opposite of that. The hypocrisy has got to start getting called out. And I grew up listening to this as well. But but as you get older and you become enlightened and you understand how the world is, I would hope that certain things don't hit the same way that it used to. So that's just a natural part of life. But at a certain point, the buck has to stop. So I like Dee-1 talking about it too, because it deserves to be said, because it's true, number one. And number two, these hypocrites just got to be called to the carpet for who they are. So, not that Benny the Butcher is one, but people like Meek Mill most certainly are. And a lot of these other rappers who do that are hypocrites as well. And we have got to rewire our brain to disassociate your culture intrinsically from this music, because this music is just a product to be consumed. It's entertainment. You should look at it the same way you look at watching a TV show or a movie. It's not real. It's just something that you're going to the store and buying. So people need to get hip to that, seriously.